And the Oscar goes to
Frances McDormand, 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri.
At the 2018 Academy Awards, Frances McDormand delivered an empowering speech while accepting her Oscar for Best Actress in a Leading Role, during which she took a moment to spotlight women in the film industry.
Okay, look around, everybody. Look around, ladies and gentlemen, because we all have stories to tell and projects we need finance. I have 2 words to leave with you tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Inclusion rider.
In celebration of International Women's Day, we'd like to follow Frances's lead and highlight women in film and television whose work we admire.
Alright, my pick has to be Reed Morano. Morano has made some absolutely beautiful, painful, and deeply human work of the past few years. If you haven't heard of her yet, you're going to very, very soon. She is a cinematographer who turned director recently with her debut film, Meadowland. If you haven't seen that, give that a shot. And also, you might have heard her name just from Handmaid's Tale. She directed the first 3 episodes. Okay, and if that wasn't enough, Beyonce Sandcastles, she shot that.
1,000 girls raised their arms. Do you remember being born?
Reed Morano, Hollywood, hit her up now.
So I'd like to shout out Kathryn Bigelow, who you might know as the director of the all-time classic Point Break, featuring our boy Keanu, but also I would like to talk about The Hurt Locker, the movie she directed more recently with Jeremy Renner. This movie is amazing. It's so great as an action movie, but it's also just kind of over the course of the movie becomes this amazing character study for someone who just constantly needs to put themselves in the line of danger, oftentimes to the detriment of those around him. Jeremy Renner was fantastic, but I don't think this movie would have worked if Kathryn Bigelow, this talented of a director, was not kind of there to make it all come together.
I'm inspired by the work of Rachel Morrison. Believe it or not, she's the first woman ever nominated for the Oscar for Best Cinematography. She was nominated for Mudbound, Dee Reese's 1940 set drama. She was also the director of photography for Black Panther, and her other credits include Dope, Cake, and Fruitvale Station.
Say, come here. Hey, what's up, Nugget? Hey, what's up, girl? How you doing?
Good.
Good?
We played freeze tag today.
Really? Did you win?
They couldn't catch me.
When talking to the Washington Post about her nomination, she said, "Our world, especially now, is a little too messed up for just pure entertainment for entertainment's sake. The best kind of entertainment is the kind that also makes you question something or think outside the box or live another life. Those are the stories that I'm drawn to." I just love that everything she works on has a message behind it, and I look forward to seeing more work from her.
I want to give a shout out to Michelle Maclaren. If you haven't heard that name, well, you've definitely watched some of her work. She's produced and directed some of the best television over the last decade, including The X-Files, Breaking Bad, Game of Thrones, The Leftovers, Westworld, The Deuce, and Better Call Saul. She's involved in a ton of my favorite TV episodes, some highlights when Jaime Lannister saved Brienne from that bear.
Get behind me.
Will not.
In all, she directed 11 episodes of Breaking Bad. She did 4 episodes of Game of Thrones. She also was initially attached to Wonder Woman before Patty Jenkins took that job. Now, unfortunately, they split over creative differences, but she'll get her shot on the big screen in 2019 with The Nightingale. She'll also work with Chris Pratt in Cowboy Ninja Viking, which is a new comic book series getting adapted to the big screen. So excited to see her work finally on the big screen.
Basically, everybody knows Martin Scorsese and his storied career of filmmaking, but what a lot of people don't know is that every single one of his films after Raging Bull was edited by Thelma Schoonmaker. She's picked up 3 Oscars, one for The Departed, The Aviator, and Raging Bull. In addition to that, she has 7 other Oscar nominations and then tons of awards from ACE and BAFTA. When asked how it was that such a nice lady could edit Scorsese's violent gangster pictures, Thelma replied with a smile, but they aren't violent until I've edited them." So, next time you watch a Martin Scorsese movie, pay close attention to the editing, because that's Thelma's handiwork.
The boxmen are watching the dealers. The floormen are watching the boxmen. The pit bosses are watching the floormen. The shift bosses are watching the pit bosses. The casino manager is watching the shift bosses. I'm watching the casino manager, and the eye in the sky is watching us all.
I'm gonna give some love to one of my favorite filmmakers, Agnes Varda. She's one of the first French New Wave filmmakers. Recently, she was nominated for an Oscar for her film Faces Places, which made her actually the oldest person to ever be nominated for an Oscar. Go check it out.
I'd like to highlight film editor Margaret Sixel, who's done a lot of work with George Miller, specifically Mad Max Fury Road. In fact, George Miller actually asked her specifically to do it because she had never done an action film, and he wanted that film to look very different from any other action film. And if you've seen Mad Max Fury Road, it obviously paid off. That film is an absolute masterpiece of editing. In fact, she won an Academy Award in 2016 for editing. And in fact, she is the first South African-born woman to ever win an Academy Award for Best Editing.
Let us know whose work you admire in the comments below, or hit me up on Twitter at chastity_v. And be sure to come back next week for our reviews on Tomb Raider.